Today's video is about TIG welding aluminum lap joints, 1/16 inch thick, that's 1.6 millimeters thick. Let's do it. First thing I'm going to do is give them a nice wipe with acetone to make sure they don't have any oil or residual tape or peel coat residue or anything. And that's about all I'm going to do today for the sake of the video. Sometimes aluminum needs more cleaning than that. I'll start with a tapered electrode here. I'll explain why and compare later on using a rounded or balled electrode as opposed to a tapered one. The main reason is because this is only a 1/16 inch thick, I need a low amperage stable arc start, and it's hard to get one with a rounded or balled electrode. They're great for thicker metal, but I prefer, up to around 80 amps or so. I prefer just to sharpen it up just about like I would for steel, and it helps me get a stable arc start and keep the bead relatively small, which is what you kind of want to do on something this thickness. So I'm using a number 6 gas lens cup here, a stubby gas lens. This is a 17 air-cooled torch from CK Worldwide, and I'm using a number 6 cup with about 14 to 15 CFH, and that is about right. Actually, I could get by with a little bit less, and on something like this, on aluminum, too much gas flow will give you an unstable and erratic arc, and too little gas flow will give you a dirty puddle and contaminated electrodes, contaminated puddle, and everything. So you got to find that sweet spot, and that's usually dependent on the size of the cup. I'm trying to keep as tight an arc length as I can without duffing the electrode so that I can pinpoint the heat and not get too wide. On a joint like this, if this was a very long joint, I've got just a sample coupon on the table here. So, if this was several feet long or a patch on a pontoon or something, I might be tacking it every inch or two because I don't want any gaps in a lap joint like this. Things go south quick when you have a gap on a lap joint. There are a lot of different ways to feed the filler rod, but you got to figure out something that works for you, or you'll have to stop every couple of inches and choke back up. So, that's just a good tip. Just practice in your recliner while you're watching TV. Practice with that filler rod hand on feeding wire. So right now I'm going to show balling an electrode, or I should say rounding an electrode. I don't ever put a ball like a Tootsie Roll Pop on one. I just round the tip. This is a 200 amp inverter, and I've got AC balance on here, so I'm going to 0 to max cleaning. That puts more heat in the electrode and will let me ball the tip. So I tapered it to somewhat of a blunt tip, like I might be, welding on really thick steel, and then lit up, pressed just enough foot pedal to get a rounded tip, not a lollipop ball on the end, just a rounded tip. Now that's what I would use for thicker metal. I'll show why I wouldn't even use that for this lap joint in just a minute, but it would work great on something an 1/8 inch or thicker. It would work just fine. At low amperage arc starts, though, a rounded tip like this just gives you a little bit of trouble wandering around. It just doesn't want to pop off the tip like it does with the tapered tip. I've also got a little porosity showing up in the tack here, as you can see, probably because I didn't clean the metal enough. All I did was do a quick acetone wipe, and it had a little layer of oxidation. But you can see, this is doable. I mean, you can make a bead on it. It's a lot wider than it should be. A lot harder to control, but you can, weld a lap joint like this with a 3/32 rounded tip. You could also do a lot better dropping down an electrode size with a rounded tip. I just don't like to swap electrodes out that often. With the tapered tip here, very easy to start, get a tack started, keep the weld pretty small, and keep the bead small. And with this particular weld, I probably never needed more than 80 amps or so. And so because I'm using a 200 amp inverter that has AC balance, I can set the AC balance to, it's set around 65% electrode negative or 35% cleaning, and the tip will just barely round on the very tip and still provides quite a bit of puddle control, a pretty good low amperage start, a lot better than a big rounded tip anyway. It just gives you a lot better control over arc starts and starting the puddle small and keeping it as small as possible. You don't want a big huge bead on thin metal. So bottom line, I'm not at all against rounding the electrode for thicker metal though. I prefer to do it on 1/8 inch and thicker. On thinner metal, I prefer to just taper it and let it round however it will round, and I'll get better arc starts at low amperages that way. Hey, just a quick reminder, my online store is at weldmonger.com. I sell TIG fingers, gas lens kits, the stubby gas lens kit that I use in this video, and I'm adding products all the time. That is how I support these videos. Thanks so much for watching.